Hello everybody, this is Albert from Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about what is black tea. Now before we begin, I definitely recommend you check out our previous episodes, in particular episode 1 where we talk about the tea plant, but also check out the previous episodes on what is green tea, what is oolong tea, what is white tea. So what is black tea? Black tea is the most consumed tea in the world by far. But when you think about black tea, it probably isn't in the zeitgeist as much as green tea. Let's say green tea is very well known. White tea is not that well known. Oolong, maybe some people have even heard of the term oolong. But black tea is the most consumed in the world. And why is that? It's two main reasons. All those iced teas you drink, Lipton, Arizona, whatever it is, all the iced teas, and maybe you don't think about this, right? You don't think about when you're drinking like sweet tea or something like that. Like, is this white? Is this green? It's always black. So when you think about the consumption of iced teas in the world, in particular in the West, is black tea. That explains why the large majority of tea that's consumed in the world is black tea. So there's a lot of black tea that is drunk. Now, black tea can be consumed in two ways. The orthodox way, otherwise known as loose leaves, and I'm currently drinking our blue flower black tea, our blue flower Earl Grey. And in China, they don't call black tea, they call it red tea because of the liqueur, the color of red, but we call it black tea. Either way, black tea typically comes in two forms. You still can find loose leaf black tea, and I'll show you a picture of this blue flower Earl Grey, which is an Earl Grey, so it's gonna have the tea leaves, the black tea leaves, and then with bergamot, which give it the citrusy taste, and then our blue flower gives a little blue flower taste. It's a very good black tea. But you either have the orthodox form, which is still the loose leaf, the actual tea leaves, or you have CTC. CTC is probably the most common way that people drink black tea, simply because CTC is when they get the tea leaves, and I'll show snippets of the video here, they get the actual tea leaves, and black tea is like the other teas in that you pluck it and then you're going to oxidize it. So we talked about oolong, how oolong's oxidation can be anywhere from like 15% to 85%. That's why oolong is probably my favorite tea, because there's so much range that you get from oolong. So if you get something that's 15% oxidized, it almost tastes more, and it has more floral taste, more vegetal taste, like a green tea. But if you get something that's on the other side of the spectrum, 75, 80%, then it's gonna have a more black taste, a more robust taste. So whereas oolong is partially oxidized and green tea is not oxidized at all because they kill green at the beginning, black tea is completely oxidized. This is why black tea, the tea leaves or the CTC fannings of it are black. So it's completely oxidized. And so as a result of oxidation, you're going to get some differences in from, let's say, green tea, which hasn't been oxidized at all, or even white tea, which is only 5% oxidized. What you're going to get is black tea as a whole, there are exceptions, as a whole is not as good for your body. You're not getting a lot of the antioxidants that you're going to be getting from black tea that you would be getting from green and white tea. Also, the caffeine levels as a whole tend to be higher in black tea because of the oxidation process. Now, there are exceptions, like in green tea, if you get matcha or gyokuro, they do have high caffeine levels because of the fact that they put them in a shade. But as a whole, if you have to compare, black tea is gonna have a lot more caffeine than green and white tea. Now, even compared to regular coffee, the amount of caffeine in black tea is not even a third of what you get in a cup of coffee. So if you kind of relate it all, it's still pretty low. The other thing that black tea is gonna have, it's gonna have higher fluoride levels, which is just something just to know. So with black tea, CTC is curl, tear, crush. That's what it stands for. And so what they did was they get the tea leaves and they put it in this gigantic machine, which is gonna turn the green leaves, which have been plucked, into powder. And then that powder, what they do is put it in the tea bags. And so the large majority of black tea that you get in tea bags is CTC. And in fact, the large majority of black tea that most people drink in America is CTC. If you open your breakfast tea, if you open your Earl Grey, if you open your Darjeeling, if you open any of these kind of well-known black teas, you open up those tea bags, it's going to be what we call the fannings or the powder. And we'll have a separate episode how even tea bags came into existence. So the large majority of people drink CTC. CTC derived black tea is considered as a whole to be inferior to loose leaf. And if you look at the trends of the last 50, 60 years, it's been a lot of CTC. So the majority of black tea that you're consuming and that the world is consuming is CTC. And the CTC variety of black tea typically comes from Kenya and India and in these places down there, the equatorial regions. The Chinese don't drink CTC. The Chinese who do make black tea will still do the orthodox approach or the loose leaf approach. So understand that. So with black tea, because I don't want to make this episode, because we can have tons of episodes on black tea and the different varieties of black tea, just understand with black tea, it's fully oxidized. So when you look at black tea, the leaves are going to be black. But the process of full oxidization gives it a certain taste that you're not going to get from the greens. The greens tend to have a very vegetal taste. The blacks have a strong, robust taste. And because of the way they're made in their taste profile, this is the tea that you can add milk and sugar. So a very famous black tea would be something like what we call chai, which is the Indian word for tea, but masala chai. And here in America, we call it chai. So this is the one that they add cardamom and cinnamon, and you can add milk and sugar. Because the flavor profile of black teas can lend itself to you putting milk and sugar in it. So, but if you look at green tea, you don't put milk and sugar in green tea. You would never do that. Nobody in Asia does that because it would taste disgusting. But black tea lends to itself a flavor profile that complements milk and sugar. So, fully oxidized, has more caffeine, is less healthy for you in terms of its nutrient profile. And know that this is the tea that is consumed by most of the world because of iced teas and the typical tea bags that you get are going to have the CTC. If you take away the CTC and you just look at loose leaf black tea production, it's pretty small. In China and in Taiwan, they're certainly going to drink loose leaf tea, but there has been an increase in loose leaf black tea production because of people like in America and the West and other places that are into what we call artisanal teas. They want high-end teas, and they're responding to that market because they know that people don't want to drink CTC, low inferior black tea fannings. They want loose leaf. So again, I am drinking blue flower Earl Grey, and I'll show you a picture of what the leaves look like and before and after. And again, we offer this over at the website. So guys, I hope this helps. Until next time, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and post a comment. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.